All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for getting here today. I appreciate it. I know some of you came a long way. It is much appreciated. Very excited about this meeting and all the work that you and your agencies have done to prepare for this summer. For those of you who I haven't met, my name is Terry O'Leary. I'm the Acting Commissioner at the Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services, and as part of that role, I serve as the chair of the Disaster Preparedness Commission. So before we get started, I'm going to go through the roll call very quickly, and we will go in alphabetical order. Office of Addiction Services and Supports. Office for the Aging.
Here.
Department of Agriculture and Markets.
Present.
Office of Children and Family Services.
Here.
Department of Corrections and Community Supervision.
Here.
Division of Criminal Justice Services.
Present.
State Education Department.
Present.
Empire State Development Corporation.
Present.
Energy Research and Development Agency. Department of Environmental Conservation.
Present.
Department of Financial Services.
Present.
Office of Fire Prevention and Control.
Here.
Office of General Services.
Here.
Department of Health.
Here.
Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services is present. Division of Homes and Community Renewal.
Present.
Office of Information Technology Services.
Present.
Department of Labor.
Present.
Office of Mental Health.
Here.
MTA.
Present.
Division of Military and Naval Affairs. Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation.
Here.
Office for People with Developmental Disabilities.
Morning.
Good morning. Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. Public Service Commission.
Present.
Department of State.
Present.
Division of State Police.
Present.
Thruway Authority.
Present.
Department of Transportation.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioner. Office of Victim Services.
Present.
American Red Cross.
Present.
And 211 of New York State.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. Thank you again, everybody, for showing up on time. Very much appreciate it. We have a full agenda. We tried to make this meeting a little different than normal. In the past, it's been very heavy on Division of Homeland Security presenting to the DPC. What we wanted to do was walk through all of the preparation that's been going on behind the scenes for this summer's events, much of which is going to be focused out on the river, just across the river as well, and we have our partners from the New Jersey State Police here to talk a little bit about their work. But we also know that there are going to be things going on throughout the entirety of the state, and your agencies have been working tirelessly to help further this, many in ways both obvious and not obvious. But before we get into the presentation, I'm going to turn it over to the Governor's Director of Major Events, Justin Brannan.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Governor and our State Director of Operations, Jackie Bray, I want to thank all of you. The Governor has been clear that she wants this summer to be an all-hands-on-deck moment, and that is clear today, that we all received the memo, and we appreciate that. I'm a city guy, grew up in Brooklyn, now working for the state, appreciating the breadth of the state, appreciating that there's a world north of the Bronx has been very important to me, and understanding really, it's been inspiring for me to be working with all of your agencies, and it's encouraging to see that we really have all hands on deck for this summer. There is nothing to compare it to, which I think is hard for the New York mind to, we all look back, whether 1976 bicentennial or op sale or whatever it may be. This is going to be all those things times a million. And we need all of you there representing us and representing the Governor, representing the great state of New York. And I just want to thank you for your partnership and look forward to today's program. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. So to kick it off, the first presentation is going to be by the Executive Deputy Director of OEM, Jen Waka. I think a lot of you remember Jen from all the work that Jen did preparing for the solar eclipse, which those things that we could control, we controlled. We couldn't control the sun or the moon, but the actual eclipse itself and all the events around it went very, very well. I think a lot of people enjoyed it throughout the North Country and Western New York, and in no small part because of Jen's leadership and all the work by your agencies in preparing for the traffic and that event. So Jen immediately went from solar eclipse to FIFA Sail Forth, USA 250, and now we're throwing in the Knicks, which is a great problem to have, but is another wrinkle. Do appreciate Mike Brown moving Cat Towns to where he did, but still, it's just making things more difficult. But to speak about that, here's Jen.
Thank you, Commissioner, Chair of the DPC, and members of the DPC for this morning's opportunity to really kind of introduce a number of our extraordinary peers across these major events. It is really an exceptional and wonderful and exciting time for which we are worried and working really hard to be as ready for a whole range of contingencies. Next slide, please. So from a statewide perspective, this is by no means representative of everything that is happening in the June-July timeframe in New York State and in the region, especially the New York City region, including and extending into our partners with New Jersey, but also our neighboring borders in really every direction. What makes this so exceptional is not that it's a busy summer season, that is normal for us, but that we have the U.S. semi-quincentennial. Yes, I worked really hard to make sure I could say that word without bumps. It is the FIFA World Cup 26 that is being hosted by 3 countries in extraordinary cities across the United States and Canada and Mexico, but also significant matches being at the MetLife Stadium in New Jersey and in that New York City area that really touches all of us. We've moved the Jones Beach Air Show, and the Four Leaf Air Show is now also the July 4th weekend. And with it being our semi-quincentennial, we expect that July 4th will be extraordinary everywhere across New York State. So our range of focus for our planning effort and our readiness effort has been about 41 days, July 10th through June 20th. It brackets the beginning of FIFA World Cup, which starts on the 11th in Mexico, and then finishes out on July 19th in MetLife Stadium with the final match. And we have colleagues that are going to talk further about those details and events. Our effort as New York State is to not get into each of these events and plan them, but to support them. So state agency partners have these extraordinary networks of planning and capability that get us ready for these specific events. But our focus has been the kind of the entirety, the building the big umbrella, the working across all of the partners to build our operations for this. Next slide. So how we've done that, really starting in the summer of 2024, so the commissioner didn't lie, it really was not long after the solar eclipse concluded that we dove right into this. And a couple of the lines of effort were to merge into the planning efforts of FIFA World Cup that are led by New Jersey State Police and NYPD, to merge into the Sail Forth International Naval Review, International Aerial Review led by the U.S. Coast Guard and the U.S. Navy and Macy's, and then support all of the other planning efforts that are happening throughout. Some of the notable things that we've done to build that umbrella across state government is we established bi-monthly initially, then they transitioned to monthly, and now they are actually twice a month, multi-agency coordination and planning meetings for which many of the colleagues here support and participate in, and with gratitude for every agency that at one meeting or another gave a presentation and a detailed overview of the planning efforts and the capabilities that were being built to make New York State's coordination and response as strong as we can make it. We've built plans, which I'll talk about in a minute. We updated the New York State Mass Gathering Planning Guide that is a resource for local state partners across New York State. And thank you to State Police and Department of Health and other partners who supported that update and posted that. And then we shared that with our county emergency management partners to help inform their planning efforts. We are continuing to work through the state's incident management system on New York response requests that come in from partners. One of those big supports is the hostile vehicle mitigation barriers that are going out and supporting a lot of these special events, but also state agency resources are pretty extraordinary in providing capabilities to support a lot of these events. Training, we have supported NYPD and New York City training, as well as statewide training, bringing in federal training courses, but also really amping up the New York State Emergency Operations Center training, and building a lot of programs in between so that we can maximize our readiness. And then exercises. Many of the agencies, just this past meeting last week or yesterday, spoke of intra-departmental exercises that you're doing, but we also came together as a state and worked with the Center for Homeland Defense and Security and did a tabletop exercise of a pretty challenging statewide scenario where we almost threw the kitchen sink, but everything else with it at us so that we could talk through a range of capabilities, because to do anything less doesn't serve this extraordinary alignment of events justice. Next slide. So the umbrella that we've built in terms of a plan is the State Event Action Plan. We have drafted that. We leveraged some of the concepts from the solar eclipse, but not much actually translated. This is such a unique and different perspective, but built that umbrella that talks about how New York State is going to work across our agencies, work across the emergency support functions in the EOC, how we're going to build kind of specialized capabilities like a marine operations branch and an air operations branch that won't per se be running operations at these extraordinary events, but providing that connectivity for information sharing and resource support if needed throughout that 41 days that we're tracking. There is a range of hazards. This could by no way be considered a full and comprehensive list, but you can see all of the things that are the potential threats and risks during this series of events that were part of the mindset baked into this event action plan. The next step for that is we'll be socializing that with state agencies soon for the last round of feedback, with the goal being that next week we finalize it and start to do some EAP briefs in preparation for our kickoff on June 10th. Next slide, please. The operational focus of this event action plan is really to establish and maintain information sharing between the New York State Emergency Operations Center and across all critical and event-specific operations. That includes transportation operations, fan engagement events, Jones Beach Air Show, the International Naval Review Unified Command. There will be a piece that will go up the Hudson River that the captain will talk about shortly, but to really create that web across New York State, not to provide operational direction, but to provide that support and information collaboration. It will also serve as a transition point that if something does require significant consequence management support, then we will transition to our state plans and procedures, which is the Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan and state agency operations. Attached to this will be some of the major planning doctrines that we've been integrated into. So the consequence management plan for the FIFA World Cup 26 relative to the New York, New Jersey site, as well as the Sailforth INR and IAR consequence management plans. Next slide. The State Emergency Operations Center will be activated for 41 days, starting that June 10th and going through July 20th. On non-match days, we will be kind of an 8 to 4 pattern just to keep the information sharing going. It'll probably be lighter staffing, but then it will surge up on match days, which there's 8 in total, and it will surge up even more during July 4th, starting July 2nd through July 8th, working at a 24/7. The state agency participation will ebb and flow and really kind of flow on those match days as well as the 24/7 during July 4th. We will also be providing representatives and support to the New York City EOC, the NYPD JOC, the New Jersey EOC, the INR Unified Command that will be hosted here at Javits, as well as supporting event incident command posts from the Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services, as we are sure many of you are supporting as well. Some of our key considerations with this entire umbrella is that this is a statewide and state agency endeavor, that we are not just focused on the New York City metropolitan area, but that we are appropriately focused on the New York City metropolitan area, while we are also maintaining focus in the areas of statewide that may also be having significant events at any given time. Because there are so many multiple simultaneously occurring events. This is a dynamic and complex threat environment, which we will hear about in executive session maybe, but having the state readiness and the posture leaning forward that we are ready to react. And then it has really been a unique opportunity to collaborate with state, local, and federal partners, both from a state EOC, from branches, from emergency support functions, really working together, not from a command and control perspective, but from a support and information sharing perspective. Last slide. And with that, I want to thank all of the state agency partners that have really been extraordinary on this entire effort during the preparedness. Now we're in the readiness phase, but then we move on to operations, and grateful for everything that everybody brings to the table and working together. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Jen. So one thing to keep in mind, your staff has been working with Jen and supporting OEM in our coordination efforts. But if you have any questions, Jen's here, she can answer any of them now. We can also talk offline. I've received inquiries from a couple of different agencies about where else can we help. And there's not always an obvious fit for something like this where we're preparing for large mass gatherings. But I will say the state EOC activation for 41 days, what we are doing in OEM is, our OEM is inviting in other parts of the division to staff the EOC so that it's on-the-job training. After COVID, the first days of COVID, there were people who had that muscle memory from Ida and from Sandy, but a lot of people were learning how the EOC actually operated and worked while we were trying to deal with the early days of COVID, end of February, beginning of March. So I would offer the same opportunity to you and your staff if you would like to visit the EOC during these activation dates. We'd be happy to host you. If you would also have particular staff you would like to send to work the EOC for a little bit so that they can see the actual operation during what we hope is just a preparedness and monitoring event, we'd be more than happy to host you. So extend that invitation to everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. Appreciate it. So up next, this is obviously a bi-state event. The host committee for FIFA is New Jersey and New York City, and the games will be actually taking place out in New Jersey. So MetLife, which I think now is being called New York, New Jersey Stadium for the purposes of FIFA, has already hosted a Super Bowl. They do an excellent job of handling these large events on a regular basis. I think anyone who's gone to MetLife understands that. They're well prepared. But we're very happy to have our partners here today. So New Jersey is a little different than New York. In New Jersey, the Office of Emergency Management is contained within the state police. So our counterparts across the border are with the state police. And we're very happy today. I saw both of them earlier, I think, but we have Colonel Saratowicz and Lieutenant Colonel Lamanowicz here today to talk a little bit about New Jersey's approach and how they're preparing for FIFA and Sailforth this year.
Excellent, thank you very much. Everybody hear me? I'm going to step out a little bit. Everybody good? All right, very good. First, I just want to introduce Lieutenant Colonel Doug Lamanowicz, who is my partner in all of this, and as well let everybody know that we don't do this alone. This goes to the unprecedented amount of partnerships that we have in this unprecedented event. Just to let you know, okay. That pin right there is a pin that every single trooper will be wearing. Our motto right now is safety, security, and service. And we want every one of our troopers, when they look down at their uniform, to see that we are welcoming the world for this event. This is, again, an international event. We have the opportunity to be on the world stage with all of our partners and get this right. We cannot get this wrong. So, very fortunate to have Club World Cup 2025, June and July. We had 9 total games at MetLife Stadium, but again, not just the games, it's the connectivity of our hotels, our team base camps, our training sites, our escorts, our VIPs. Final game, we had 81,118 people on site with the sitting U.S. president as well. Absolutely seamless safety and security initiative. Goes to the partnerships that we've created and goes to the operational plan that we created with all of those partners. This is our schedule right here for 2026. 8 total games in the stadium. Remember though, I don't want to get myopic towards the stadium. We have to look at everything that's happening, not just in our state, but in our partner states as well, and making sure we make all of those connections. Obviously, New York is our closest partner, but we also have Philadelphia. We have a troop that's embedded with Philadelphia, and we also have a his and groom, which connects all of the host cities. So we're getting information in real time as well. This is a more focused look at all of the our games. We have 5 total group stage games, round of 32, round of 16, and the final game, MetLife Stadium, July 19th, 2026, with the projection of 3.2 billion people watching that game. Just think about that. Last Super Bowl had 127 million people that watched the last Super Bowl. The projection for the final game for the World Cup in 2026 is 3.2 billion people. And it's going to be played right across the river here in New Jersey. Now, how do we do all of this? How do we get up and running? The first thing we needed to do was designate a lead agency on the New Jersey side. NYPD on the New York side, New Jersey State Police on the New Jersey side. So we went to the governor and we explained, not to come in with an ego, but to be able to come in and say, hey, look, this is how we coordinate. We need to all work together, and it has to funnel through one central hub. That is the letter from Governor Murphy that designated New Jersey State Police on the Jersey side as the lead agency. But then moving forward, how do we do that? We created the 20 working groups. Again, in coordination with the NYPD. Those 20 working groups right now have over 400 partner agencies. Think about that. Completely unprecedented. All the subject matter experts in every single one of those boxes right there, in every single working group, over 400 partner agencies took place in this planning process. And then once we go operational, which we're operational right now, we started this planning process over 985 days ago. Just think about that. 985 days ago. We are 3 days from going live and 15 days from the start of the tournament. This is our incident command structure right here. Look at the top of that, and I know it may be a little hard to see. Again, not a state police operation. It is a coordinated partner operation. In our table of organization, we have FIFA, we have the White House Task Force, we have all of our federal agencies, as well as the NYPD, New York State Police. Everybody else that's a partner agency is memorialized in our incident command system. And you see how easily our working groups transition over to that incident command system. As we move forward to the next one, this is our operational ICS form. Every hotel, we're not putting cops on docks. Every hotel will have a full operational plan with a critical infrastructure assessment. And every hotel will have the same safety and security plan. So it's all standardized across every hotel. Protecting the team, but also looking outside and protecting any fans, any spectators that might be there as well. And this is our intel side. Our intel side is gleaning intelligence, but also we have an investigative side, which is doing proactive investigations as well. Now, how do we all talk? How do we all communicate? We have 4 main command posts that we have set up. That area command will be in West Trenton. Now, this will be the overall area command for all of the events, looking at the totality of everything that's happening. All information will filter in to the area command. This will be our organizational leads. This will be our personnel that can make decisions from their organization. So if something were to happen, say a transit incident were to happen, we're looking at transit in real time. We're not picking up a phone and calling them. We can all make decisions and mitigate anything that may happen in real time. We will also have our STEM team. Mobility, mobility, mobility. If mobility fails, everything else fails. Our statewide traffic management center monitors all the mobility throughout our state, but also looking outside to our partner states as well. You can see the big screens in there. We'll have pole cameras up in and around the stadium, but also monitoring all the roadways throughout the state as well. Okay. And then the stadium. Stadium has two main command posts. Internally, looking at the venue command center, the VCC, looking at everything happening internally to the stadium, but then also externally. What is the impact to our local roadways? The impact to our local partners as well. All of our local partners will be sitting in the EVCC, the external venue command center. Okay. And then all of our fan festivals. This is something we had one fan festival at Liberty State Park. Now it's a little fractured. Nothing we can't handle though, and I'll show you exactly how that works, but we'll have a unified command at our fan festivals with our local partners as well. And how do we get that information out? Because if we hold on to that information, we fail. All the information floats into the area command center, we set up a situational report, and then we send that out not just to our law enforcement partners and our public safety partners, but also to our private partners as well, telling them what impacts may happen to their business, giving them all the information that we have. We set this up, it's called the ArcGIS system. We've shared this with almost all of our partners right now. It is a living, breathing document, an incident action plan that memorializes everything that's happened. We create a paper one, right? That's about 400 pages for one day. Just think about how many people will be working in one day. We want it electronic. So when we wake up in the morning, we log into this. This tells us what teams are there, what flights they took, what escorts are happening that day from our VIPs and dignitaries, what fan festivals are activated, and essentially everything we need for that day is in this one location right here. We have licenses for this. We've shared this with all the partners that have requested. We can still share if anybody has not gotten that, but please let us know. And I'll leave my information at the end. Match day assessments. Running all the intelligence, socioeconomical, geopolitical issues in that home country, providing us with the new word of hooliganism. Does this team have fans that are hooligans? Is this something that we need to be prepared and postured for as well? So every game in Club World Cup got a full match day assessment. We are doing the same thing right now for World Cup as well. Human trafficking, we can go to the next one. Human trafficking for Club World Cup, we did 5 total proactive human trafficking investigations, 4 total arrests, and 17 victims were identified. For World Cup, we will do that on steroids. We already have 15 proactive investigations set up right now that we're working with all of our partners. Again, not just to arrest the human traffickers or the solicitors, but to identify the victims and get them services as well. How do we do that? We have a human trafficking task force, all right, with the NYPD, with all of our federal partners and our local partners as well, targeting those high-risk locations, also utilizing those AI tools, looking into the dark web, recognizing those solicitors, those traffickers. We also have a Simply Report platform that we're utilizing where victims can report on there and drive our investigations. Utilizing all of our private partners as well. We currently have 17,000 private partners that are registered that we're sharing information with in the hopes that we're getting information back from them as well. And the IPCC. The IPCC is something that we lobbied for. Myself and Lieutenant Colonel Lamanowitz went over to Germany in '24 with FIFA on an observation program. Our first stop was the International Police Coordination Center. One law enforcement officer from every country, the home countries that we're playing in this tournament. We thought it was an absolutely phenomenal idea. The White House Task Force continually asked us, what can we do for you? Our number one thing that we told them every time, we wanted IPCC here in the US. They have created that. That will go live June 1st in Leesburg, Virginia, and we're sending 5 personnel from New York and New Jersey to the IPCC. Now, what is that doing? That's gleaning international intelligence and feeding that to us in real time here for anything that's actionable. And our protective measures, like I said, every site, we don't just throw cops on dots. Every single site gets a full 360 protective measures initiative. We are looking at all the safety and security operations at that site, ingress, egress, but also looking at mapping as well. All right, because we have multiple agencies working together. If we say the west side of the building or the west side of the stadium, does everybody know what that is? But if we provide a common operating picture, that essentially is you're saying, hey, there's a suspicious package in E4. Now everybody knows exactly where that is. These are our team base camps. We do have the most of anybody in the tournament. We have 4 team base camps. We will have 24 safety and security operations at every single team base camp, as well as the escorts of the teams and safety and security for every single team. Okay. Our fan hub, this is the one fan hub in New Jersey. Go to the next one. These are your fan hubs in New York. Again, full safety and security measures at every single fan hub. These are the PVEs, the private engagements for teams, or for if an establishment wants to have an event and show the games, they have to give an application to FIFA. FIFA then approves it. Right now there's 24 in the hopper. It looks like 12 will be approved in the near future. We have connected to all of our local partners to ensure safety and security at all those events as well. And these are our Flag City events. We have 7 of them right now. Each one is a one-day event. We are the lead agency with that. We don't come in and say we're the lead agency. We come in and say, how do we support you? What resources do you need? And then everything else, right? Because Bob's Bar and Grill may be having an event as well. We want to make sure that we are connected to the local PD with all of those events. So we put out a QR tracker and a QR code so that they can then report that to us, and that all goes into our GIS tracker, where we can then map every single event in the state that's happening. And then I won't touch on this, but obviously I see that's on the agenda a little bit. We are embedded with the Navy and the Coast Guard for their planning process as well, and they are embedded in our planning process. Obviously sharing resources from the federal government, but making sure our operations are all seamless and working together as one. I like to put this up because this just shows the impact to our region. There are 4 SEER 1 events essentially happening at the same amount, around the same exact time in our region, as well as the SEER 2, SEER 3, and SEER 4. This is unprecedented, right? 4 SEER 1 events happening at the same time. This is a huge draw on all of our resources, but again, it goes to our collaboration, goes to our integration of planning, and goes to our operational plans all working together as one. Drones. Obviously, we had Drone Gate in New Jersey. We learned a lot. We do have one of the subject matter experts in the country now on staff, setting up details with the federal government. This was the other ask from the White House Task Force, is for Club World Cup. We had 9 total games. First 6 games, we did not have the ability to mitigate drones. Very good at detecting them at the stadium, but I held my breath every single time that we detected one because we couldn't mitigate. The last 3 games, we had the federal government there with us, assisting us with the mitigation, and now we were working as a federal task force at every single site that's sanctioned by FIFA to have the ability to mitigate drones. All right, and again, mobility is the biggest thing. You cannot park at the stadium, so how are we getting patrons into the stadium? If you look, we have 40,000 transit tickets that are being sold. They will not sell 40,000 in one. The other portion of that is your host committee shuttles that will have 10,000 patrons. That number is fluctuating a little bit if you're watching the news. People will also have shuttles for 22,000 people as well, and then the other 6,000 will be ride share. That is a total of 78,000 people in the stadium, all through mass transit. What we created, and I can share this slide deck with everybody, is also a calendar of events. Remember, there's so many events happening at the same time. We wanted something that's palatable that you can look at and clearly memorialize all the events, what days they're happening across the entire region. So you can just kind of click through that. This just kind of shows you, we rated every event by threat level, and all the events that are happening are in there. You can just go through that. Some of our busier weeks. Now, we have a full partner stakeholder brief today at 2 o'clock. We've welcomed the community onto this, essentially all of our partners. We usually get about 600 people that hop onto these stakeholder briefs. Everybody's welcome on that. If any of you want to hop on to that today at 2 o'clock, just shoot me an email, we'll get you on there. We've also been doing command general staff meetings with all of our partners every 2 weeks. So again, our number one thing is connectivity with our partners, connectivity with the community, all for, and I say it 10 times a day, it's one team, one fight for one mission. And that's the safety and security of everybody attending any of the games in this region, but also all the international travelers, as well as all the citizens that will be in our area. And again, safety, security, service. That's our motto. Doug, I'll just pass it to you. Do you have anything else?
No, sir. Well done.
Okay. I think I hit my 20-minute mark. Open it up. Does anybody have any questions at all? I hit everything in 20 minutes?
Colonel, so I'll jump in, not a question, but more a comment. You talked about human trafficking, and this is probably going to be, the downside, the largest human trafficking event that we have seen worldwide. And, security folks have been talking about that. So I think it's great that you highlighted that. And here in New York, we have an interagency task force on human trafficking that DCGS oversees, but Department of Health, Department of Labor, Children and Family Services. It's something that New York has leaned out in front as well. And that's unfortunately the downside of an event like this, all the money that comes in and the victims. So I want to say thank you for highlighting that in your presentation, because it's something we obviously don't advertise, but is very important. And so, you know, kudos to New Jersey and the state police on that. The other thing I would just say, and it's somewhat unrelated, for anyone, if you haven't read the papers in the last year and a half, FEMA has been a little turbulent. And the partnership with the state police in New Jersey, with their Office of Emergency Management, with our Office of Emergency Management, has done a great deal to try and stabilize the services that are available, and our local partners in FEMA are fantastic. But unfortunately, direction that had been coming out of DC was difficult, but the Colonel and his staff have been fantastic partners, and I just want to say thank you for all the partnership over the last year and a half, making sure that those of us in the region, our citizens get the services they deserve.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Anybody else?
Thank you, Colonel.
All right, be safe, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
So up next, we have Commissioner Christina Farrell from New York City Office of Emergency Management. So emergency management, all disasters, the saying is all disasters start and end local. And many of us know this from Lodi or the Herkimer Valley storm in October of 19. There are times when what the locals need from the state is immense, where we come in and we'll take over operations and we'll supplement those counties where their emergency manager has no staff, and they also serve as the county fire coordinator, the 911 systems coordinator, and the rest. But fortunately, we have New York City. NYCM is the best. It's hard to call them local, given their responsibility and population and size of their mission. But NYCM is the best local emergency manager in the world. There's no two ways about it, and they have always been strong partners. And Commissioner Farrell, in this role, has been with NYCM for quite some time and knows emergency management, knows how to deal with the state, knows how the state deals with the city, and has been an extremely strong partner. And obviously, everyone's coming for the games, but people are going to be in New York City for a lot of this, and there's a lot going on in New York. So I'd just like to say thank you to Commissioner Farrell for taking the time and presenting to us today. Commissioner?
Great, thank you, Commissioner Leary, Justin Brannon, my good friend, everyone. And I want to say, even though I've made my career in New York City, I grew up across the river in New Jersey, so this is like perfect for me. I get to mix New Jersey, New York, everything. Welcome to New York City. We're always happy to host everyone here. You know, I really appreciate all the work that's gone in, and just talking a little bit about while the games are obviously going to be across the river, we know all the activity, all the different things happening here, so we just wanted to give you a little bit of a local flavor. Also, Ira Tannenbaum, Assistant Commissioner for Strategic Partnerships, is here, so if you have any questions, if you're not connected with us already, you can see me, or you can always, you probably all know Ira, but everybody can speak to him. So I want to thank the Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services for convening this meeting and the work that this commission does every day on behalf of New Yorkers across the state. As you all know, this commission brings together 30 state agencies and the Red Cross around a single, very large table with the authority to coordinate disaster response plans and direct state operations. For a city the size and complexity of New York, this work is absolutely critical. Our most difficult days do not respect agency lines or jurisdictional boundaries. And in New York City, these boundaries are unusually layered. World Trade Center, George Washington Bridge, LaGuardia Airport, JFK, all sit within the Port Authority jurisdiction, but they also physically are within, city limits. The MTA subway, commuter rail, bridge and tunnel infrastructure that runs underneath and across all 5 boroughs. When something happens at any of those assets, which is pretty often, it's almost always city resources, NYPD, FDNY, EMS, Department of Transportation, Sanitation, Environmental Protection, and NYCM that respond first or alongside, regardless of who holds the badge on the property. That's the everyday reality of operating in New York City, and it's why state coordination through the partners in this room, MTA, Port Authority, State Police, National Guard, DISHES, OEM, Department of Health, Transportation, OGS, and others, matters as much as it does. We at NYSM are better at our job because this commission does its job, and I'm grateful for the partnership. I also want to acknowledge the work the DPC has been doing in the run-up to this summer. You heard from Jennifer on all the great work we've been doing together, symposiums, cyber coordination, heat action plans, and grant programs, which are very important for the World Cup. All of this is the connective tissue that makes emergency preparedness work at state and regional scale. I know that we, and I personally, can sleep at night a little bit because we feel the benefit of this every single day. With my time here, I want to discuss three things: what New York City is preparing for this summer, what NYSM has built to manage it, and where state coordination will matter most. As we all know, the shorthand for this summer is World Cup, but that does not fully describe the operational picture. As the people speaking before me said, and you all know very well, we're going to have 8 FIFA World Cup matches, including the final. There will be free official fan events in all 5 boroughs during the 39-day footprint. Queens will open the day of the kickoff match. Brooklyn Bridge Park runs almost the full window. The Bronx, Staten Island, and Manhattan each have their own fan activations throughout that time. Layered on top of the World Cup, of course, within the same window, the United States. I didn't practice as much as Jen, so I'm just going to say America 250, Operation Sail. I know my limits. And the International Naval Review. There's an International Aerial Review, Independence Day Parade, and then the annual events that happen on a daily basis in New York City, such as Pride and the Puerto Rican Day Parade. Also, as I think everyone knows, we're going to have a couple more basketball games in the city, including June 16th. If we get, hopefully it's a sweep in 4, but if we get to Game 6, there will be the World Cup France-Senegal, and then we'll have the Knicks game, so the West Side is going to be hopping. Also, there could also, I don't want to jinx anything, but there could be a parade on top of all that later in June. So the events just keep coming, and we're here for it. This is happening on top of each other and on top of all the operational tempo of a city with 8.5 million New Yorkers. In addition, and that's where emergency management come in, we would love to have 39 days of beautiful or even overcast weather, temperature in the 70s, guessing after the last week with heat and then flash flooding. It's probably not what we're in for. So heat, flash flooding, coastal weather, infrastructure incidents, none of that's going to pause just because there's a tournament and all of these events. And this is the planning assumption that we're working with at emergency management and with our state partners at State OEM. Our role, New York City Emergency Management, inside this picture is specific. We lead the coordination and are the supporting agency for major events and emergencies. The NYPD obviously will lead on law enforcement and intelligence. FDNY will lead on fire and EMS. Transportation on city streets, roads, and bridges. Department of Health and Mental Hygiene on public health, and so on and so on. NYSM, as we always do, brings these partners together under common objectives, runs the structures that keeps information moving, and coordinates decisions that have to be made when conditions change, often in real time. The framework we will use is the one we always use, Citywide Incident Management System, or CIMS. It's the same framework the city uses to manage hurricanes, blackouts, Thanksgiving Day Parade, Times Square ball drop, the one on New Year's, and all of the other incidents, large and small, that happen across the city. For summer 2026, we're simply scaling this, we're not reinventing it. Inside that structure, working groups are organized around public safety, health and medical, transportation and infrastructure, special events, community engagement, human services, external affairs, regional and federal coordination, and planning. We are already activated in a planning posture, very similar to what Jen explained for the state. We have these working groups, and we are transitioning into an operational posture within the next couple weeks. We are planning, we will also be active on all of the game days. We'll have a hybrid activation, much like we did for the winter storms, where we have a lot of our operational partners in person, and then we will have other people on our open line as needed. Everyone is welcome. And we will also be activated for July 4th for that weekend. And then if there are any other special events, things that have to be brought in for non-game days, but days when there are games in other parts of the tournament, and we know that there's going to be a large presence, there are a lot of fan bases in New York or something, we will surge up our watch command and have people working there. And then, so what we did at emergency management, we're about 250, 300 people, very large, like Commissioner Leary said, for emergency management, very small for New York City. So, and if we go into 12-hour shifts, obviously the 250, 300 halves and half, because we let people sleep and see their families sometimes. So we have designated 60 staff specifically for summer 2026 events, and this way we can keep our on-call. We have a red, white, and blue team. Those people are on call, and so when people aren't on call, they have volunteered to do this. So we did this during COVID. We've done this during the asylum seeker operation. So this way, we're not asking the same people to do the same things, and we can focus on the events. We can focus on any other events, and then see where they intersect. I also want to give you a sense of what we've been doing behind the scenes, as we do readiness. And I know many of you were there. In December 2025, we convened a FIFA Interagency Summit. Seems like a really long time ago. I think it was just 5 months ago. At our EOC in downtown Brooklyn, we had 200 representatives from local, state, federal, and regional partners. Dishes was there, so New Jersey State Police, New Jersey OEM, Port Authority, FIFA Host Committee, U.S. Navy, FBI, FEMA, Coast Guard, National Weather Service, and all of our other partners. This set the cadence of operational planning that we have been on ever since. Overnight on December 11th and 12th, we joined a full-scale exercise at Moynihan train station with dishes and the MTA police. There were roughly 750 emergency personnel simulating a complex incident in one of the busiest transit hubs in the country. In December and again in January, in between the snowstorms, we ran our City Strike EOC functional exercise series. This was internal to emergency management. We brought 170 partners to each, 20 city, state, regional, to run through some very challenging scenarios. In April, because as everyone knows, we've had a leadership change in mayoral administrations in the last several months, we conducted a tabletop in the emergency management situation room with the new City Hall team, staff and leadership, to span the full summer footprint, looking at the World Cup, looking at July 4th and all of that, and then looking at heat, coastal storms, all the things that could happen during that window. On April 26th, I wanted 100, but we got 99 of our community emergency response team volunteers. We went out to Randall's Island for the day at the FDNY Training Academy, and we put our top volunteers through a full-scale exercise, fire suppression, search and rescue, basic medical, transit safety drills. Just so, that's not the work we expect them to do, but our volunteers are our force multiplier. We have about 750 CERT members that are very active throughout the year. They are specially trained for the summer, and they will layer on top of our 300 staff that we have to help us with a lot of this. 2 days later, after we recovered from our CERT drill, we led Operation Offside Zone, a tabletop exercise of the city's emergency public information protocol. We brought in all the communications personnel from across city agencies. We tested how the city moves accurate, multilingual, consistent messaging across channels during a major event, from agency PIOs and Notify NYC, which is the city's alert system, to social media. Public information will be foundational to emergency management during the World Cup, and we needed the people responsible for delivering it to have practice together before the tournament begins. Going all the way back to last June, the city participated in Tranquil Passport, a 4-day federally led full-scale exercise coordinated by HHS that simulated the international transport and treatment of patients with a high-consequence infectious disease during a World Cup scenario. Patients were flown to LaGuardia and transported to the biocontainment unit at Bellevue. NYCM supported transport, logistics, and interagency coordination across all 4 days. That coordination has not stayed on the shelf. In the months since, we have activated elements of it in response to the recent hantavirus and Ebola outbreaks, including standing up a joint information center virtually for the hantavirus response within the city. The readiness we build in that exercise is the readiness that we have already drawn down on this year. Much like I'm sure all of your agencies, we have participated in more than 30 partner agency exercises over the last year. When the city says it's prepared, The reference point is the muscle memory of agencies that have practiced together repeatedly against scenarios designed for this summer. I want to spend the rest of my time to talk about the interconnecting seams, the places where what the city is doing has to line up with the state, the region, and our interstate partners, and the places where I think the Commission's visibility matters most. The first seam, as has been referenced, is New York Penn Station. As you know, New Jersey Transit expects to move 40,000 fans through rail for each match, and roughly 28,000 NYC fans per match through Penn Station, which is approximately 70% of New Jersey Transit's total match day ticket sales. The station management approach has been jointly developed by Amtrak, New Jersey Transit, MTA, New York City DOT, NYPD, citywide and special events in the mayor's office, emergency management, and the FIFA host committee. New Jersey Transit World Cup service runs roughly 4 hours before kickoff through 3 hours after their final whistle. During that window, ticket check queues will close 32nd and 33rd Street to vehicular traffic. Subway, Long Island Railroad, and Amtrak services continue throughout. We got the strike out of the way. Non-event New Jersey Transit customers will be diverted to PATH at 33rd Street. This is a city, state, regional, and interstate coordination problem all at once, and it's an example of where the Commission's convening role matters concretely. The second seam is regional weather. The forecast that drives the flash flood watch over Manhattan affects fans that are going to and from MetLife Stadium. A heat dome that triggers a code red in New York City will likely have impacts in the region as well. Alignment across the river on warning thresholds, public messaging, and resource positioning is going to matter on the days when weather and matches intersect. We're building toward that with the National Weather Service, Dishes, and New Jersey OEM in the room together. The third seam is the international dimension. The World Cup will bring visitors from dozens of countries, and we at New York City Emergency Management are briefing all of the consulates in the city on summer 2026 readiness, preparedness guidance, public information channels, and points of contact if their nationals ever need assistance during a major incident. That work has natural overlap with state-level international coordination and the State Department. The fourth seam, overseen by IRA, is the private sector. New York City Emergency Management Strategic Partnerships maintains verified information channels into thousands of businesses through our CorpNet program and 1,550 enrolled partners through Partners in Preparedness. This includes hotels, transportation providers, event contractors, major employers, and utilities. Private sector coordination is a formal emergency support function in our EOC in New York City, and New York City Small Business Services owns the small business economic lane through Game Ready NYC. Before I close, a word on what we are telling the public, because the messaging discipline matters as much as the operational planning. We are not promising zero incidents, and we are not promising zero disruptions. What we are telling New Yorkers is that we have anticipated this, we are managing it, we will tell them in advance when something changes, and we will adjust as conditions require. That is the message we have been practicing, and it is the one I believe will hold up across whatever the summer actually brings us. Speaking of communicating about changes and challenges, Notify NYC, as hopefully you all know, is the city's primary alerting tool. It's available in 14 languages, including American Sign Language. New Yorkers and visitors can sign up at nyc.gov/notify-NYC. They can call 311, or they can text Notify NYC to 692-692. For the tournament specifically, we're launching a dedicated alerting platform with Everbridge Public Safety that will push information to fans and visitors, and we are coordinating closely with the host committee on message alignment. So New Yorkers and visitors are hearing the same picture from both channels. This is the picture from the city seat. The reason I wanted to walk you through this in detail is that almost everything I described touches a state agency, a state asset, or a state coordination function at some point. The Commission's value to us this summer is exactly the work this body is built for. I am grateful for it. I thank you for your cooperation, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any questions for Commissioner Farrell?
Thank you, Commissioner. Marlo Cochran, New York State Department of Education. A question I have is there any specific logistical considerations workers that work within New York City needs to be aware of? Any train schedules or bus schedules, differences that they need to be aware of now for prior planning?
So you're talking about the messaging specifically to city employees?
Yes.
Yeah, so the Department for Citywide Administrative Services, DCAS, will be sharing that messaging, much like last week when we had the railroad strike, and then when we had the heat, they do the worker health and safety, and they do the time and leave memos, those things, especially because we know that school will still be in session for the first couple weeks, so those are going to be very busy weeks. Yesterday, I led a call with all the city commissioners where we talked through heat and we talked through flash floods and how that's going to impact this. So we're also talking at that level, but we will be sure that city employees get all of that messaging.
Awesome, thank you.
Just to jump in, the state's approach, unlike the railroad strike, we are not planning to have workers work from home. Now, obviously, Commissioner laid out Penn Station in particular will be busy, and when you add the Game 6, potential Game 6 on top, right, I don't know which way the French fans are going to go if the Spurs make it to see Wembanyama or the game, but there's going to be messaging, and it's been well planned amongst the transportation agencies and the city agencies about where people will go throughout Penn Station to navigate that. But outside of that, New York City and New York State are open for business, and you know, a lot of work has gone into making sure that people can come into the city, go about their day, but also enjoy all of the different festivities that are going to be occurring. Any other questions for the commissioner?
Hi, can I just add one thing? This is Lisette Camila from the MTA. We've been working very closely with NYCM and our partners at the state. We are going to be providing additional support for wayfinding during Penn Station on match days, but service will continue to run at a normal operations. If there is a need for additional service, we will revisit at the time that it comes up, but we don't anticipate any changes in service.
Yeah, and we actually did a tabletop exercise out at MetLife hosted by Dishes facilitated it, but State Police, Jersey State Police hosted us, and there were some discussions about the messaging, right? If the Ronkonkoma line is down, what are we going to do? But New Jersey Transit, working with New York City agencies, have taken great pains, and the MTA, to make sure that they can facilitate the trains that will take people to the game, but not interrupt those who are commuting either by Long Island Railroad, Metro North, or the subway. Any other questions for the commissioner? So, Commissioner, I'd just like to say thank you very much. You know, the partnership with NYCM is fantastic, and Ira is here hiding in the back. Ira is a bit of a behind-the-scenes superstar and some of the best of emergency management. Whenever there is a fire in New York City that displaces residents, Ira is on top of it. He makes sure that New York City residents are taken care of following fires during some of their worst moments. He has no problem picking up the phone and saying to the state, we could use your help here, or we don't need your help. But, you know, he's hiding in the back, but he does fantastic work, and, you know, wanted to take this chance to point him out, embarrass him, and say thank you very much for all that you've done, Ira. Strong partner. So with that, we're going to take about a 15-minute break. I encourage you to talk to each other, say, oh crap, am I on the hook for that? I didn't know that. Come up to me, ask the same as well. But we'll reconvene in about 15 minutes. Thank you very much. So next up, we have Captain Hanley from the Coast Guard. So Coast Guard is going to be responsible for port security during Sail Forth, and it is no small feat. Some of us saw the exercise that went on out in Port Jefferson about 2 weeks ago, where the State Police, the NYPD, the Coast Guard, along with Suffolk and Nassau County, had their underwater bomb technicians actually practicing sweeping piers and checking boats, which it was amazing to see the capabilities. You know, State Police are going to play a very big role in that, in supporting, obviously, NYPD. And we're going to have, for the first time ever, in our state EOC, we're activating our Marine Operation branch, which DEC will be leading for us. So, you know, on top of everything else, there's this wrinkle as well, but the Coast Guard have been fantastic partners so far. have played a convening role amongst all the different entities. We actually had a very large tabletop at Pier 88, just up the road a little bit, a couple of months ago, and Coast Guard will be running Unified Command out of Javits Center here, which is in part why we're here, during the duration of Sail Forth. So with that, I'll turn it over to the captain. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner, and a pleasure to join all of you this morning. A couple of quick remarks. Captain Andrzejczyk, who's the captain of the ports, many of you may know him or have worked with him. He sends his regrets. As you can imagine, approaching events of this size and magnitude, we are dividing and conquering in as many places as possible. So I'm going to do my best to do probably a very poor impression of what the captain would provide you, but all of you will give me high marks so that I get a good review at the end of the year. And another couple of notes, I'm going to, in very few minutes, give a 50,000-foot view of what's really impossible to describe in 20 minutes. And 2 points that were made by my colleagues earlier, both the colonel and the commissioner. Number one is partnerships. So I'll show a list of some of the partners we're working with. All of you in this room are that group. We can't possibly capture on even probably 100 slides the number of partners and agencies in both the public sector and the private sector that are going to be necessary and have been necessary to successfully get us to this point. And the second piece, while we're certainly focused a lot on the security and the coordination around security for this massive event, which is happening in the middle of FIFA, similar to what the colonel touched on, transportation still remains one of the critical functions of the Coast Guard. That the maritime transportation system, the openness of our commerce, the ability to continue that commerce in the third largest port in the nation. So in the back of your brains, you think about what we need to do to secure the port during the span of a couple of weeks. But underlying all that is we still need to facilitate commerce safely and effectively to ensure our port and our economy remains in a healthy state and supporting all these activities as they occur at that time. So I will do my best to do that. If you jump to the next slide. So how do you approach an animal this size? We've been at this for approximately 2 years worth of planning for this International Naval Review, Aerial Review, Fleet Week, shove it all into one kind of weekend period of time. This is just a list of our executive steering committee, this roughly 40 set of agencies. Many of these agencies represent tons of sub-agencies and subgroups. So again, can't possibly show the full list here, but one of the key takeaways, as I mentioned, is I want everyone here to understand that we certainly appreciate the collaboration. There is no way the Coast Guard or even the Navy alone in a place this dynamic and complex could pull this off without the partnerships listed here and the many that work within this space. And a note that Sail Forth 250, a nonprofit, was set up as a sponsor for this event, and we list Macy's and Jersey City because of the fireworks the evening of the 4th. So just a bit of a snippet of who we're working with on both the New York and the New Jersey side. So bi-state effort and hundreds of partners that we possibly can't list here. Next slide. So just a little bit about the event itself and the timeline and what this looks like for all of you in your spaces. So as mentioned, we'll set up a unified command here in the Javits. On the unified command is Coast Guard, NYPD, and then our event sponsors kind of fluctuate through depending on who has the equity at that point in time for the event. A number of key coordinating members listed under there, but again, by no means is that list exhaustive. So about on the 30th of June, we start to see tall ships and international naval vessels and U.S. Navy vessels arrive in the port and take up anchor throughout the river or in the anchorage areas offshore in the harbor. And we also, there's a Class B parade of sail on the 3rd of July. So our smaller sailing ships, it's kind of a smaller parade evolution. So maybe a practice run, let's say, until we get to the 4th. But you'll start to see port activity really start to ramp up around the 30th of June, and our Unified Command stands up a few days before that. The 4th of July is really our big day, right? It's the one day of World Series we have to run naval review, aerial review, parade of sail, and the fireworks that evening, which I'll talk a bit more later on. So a lot happening in a very short period of time. Overlaid with that, as the Colonel mentioned and the Commissioner, we have FIFA World Cup match. Round of 16 is the 5th of July. So while I'm focused again on maritime, realize that we're certainly planning for and expecting that a number of patrons moving to fan areas or the games will rely on maritime transportation, ferries, fast ferries, Staten Island Ferry to move around the port during that period of time. It's not lost on us, and we're relying on our private partners and other operators in the port to help continue to facilitate that. And then ships start to depart, and around 9 July is when we expect the last ship to leave. So this is really, while we focus on the 4th, it's really a couple of week evolution. And the broadcast will be on NBC. So NBC is broadcasting this event live. So just something to think about in the space. Cameras on you at all times, what you're doing, how you're doing it, how you're operating and going about your business. This may be hard to read, but what we tried to condense in one slide was what does this look like when we talk about port impacts? For a lot of our partner agencies and our port partners are like shipping, ferries. For them, this is a very complicated period to have to run an operation in a 2-week period, and it requires each of us to be flexible in how we approach it, still be rigid in providing the safety and security we need to provide in order to execute this the way we want to execute it. So I really can't go, I'm not going to go through all this, but essentially we have to issue temporary rules to federal regulations that establish new temporary security and safety zones so that we can formally enforce those zones. So a lot of lawyers doing back work that I'm glad that I don't have to do to get this stuff pushed out and published formally. We're working on a very comprehensive and immersive information campaign to make sure this gets out to the public. We didn't want it to get lost in the Memorial Day weekend messaging, so you'll start to see more of this pick up. And I would just ask, for those of you who have a maritime nexus or you're working with these communities, please point them to the direction to make sure they understand what the rules will be. The last thing we want to see is inadvertent enforcement, because folks don't hear what's happening. There's a lot going on in that couple period of space. There is an aircraft carrier coming in for the Navy. That was kind of a last-minute ad. It'll be off of Stapleton in the Staten Island area. Aircraft carrier, first time a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier will be in the port of New York, New Jersey, as far as we know. So a lot of attention pulled on that. And what's not even, again, not on here, the number of VIPs, dignitaries, foreign heads of Navy, heads of the U.S. government that'll be visiting during the full period of this time, which adds that whole other layer of security on top of what we're trying to do in the maritime environment. Next slide. Quick dashboard on ships, Class A, foreign Navy vessels, U.S. vessels, heads of Navy or Air Force, and then international aircraft. So I have a quick slide in the International Aerial Review. So pile on top of the fourth, 2 different parades of ships and an aerial review flying up the Hudson with aircraft stacked in the air from here all the way down to almost Virginia. So pretty cool if you think about it, but you're having to coordinate all that stuff in a very small amount of time space and pull off security for all that. So I mentioned the naval reviews. So this graphic basically depicts, as Navy ships pull in, many of them for the naval review will go to anchor up into the harbor up here in the Hudson. There'll be a reviewing ship with a VIP on it. That reviewing ship will start up by the GWB, make its way down the river to the port. It'll be saluted essentially as it goes down. As that's finishing up, the tall ship parade starts and comes in through the Verrazano and then makes its way up north. So you'll have a mix of naval vessels, both U.S. and foreign, in the area. And back to the point about what we mentioned with the World Cup, we're very sensitive to the intel and what our foreign partners here are, who they are, what they need, and what does that look like, in terms of security for particular foreign partners that are going to be in the space. We want to be able to support them, make the best of their time here, and understand how that changes security posture for us in the port, and generally speaking, in the New York, New Jersey area. Sailforth Parade of Sail, stole this from the Sailforth website. By the way, Sailforth has a very immersive website that you can go on and really get a better idea who's going to be here, what that's going to look like, schedules, tours. So if you want to go back and check out some cool stuff for those 2 weeks, it's going to be a once-in-a-lifetime chance. I would recommend you do that. But essentially, you have Class A tall ships. Those are your larger ships over 131 feet, and the Class B. The Class A parade is on the 4th proper, as I mentioned. Class B is on the 3rd, up the East River and back. So a couple of different opportunities. Those ships will then go to berth, many of which will have, so they'll be now landside and providing tours and visitation. So I know I'm focused on the maritime piece, but it is not lost on us that there is a huge landside security component, and we're now stretching landside security resources very thin at a period when they're already stretched and having to cover numerous international global level events at the same time. So I don't want to gloss over that fact. It certainly resonates with the captain, and we are very aware of trying to work this in coordination where we are not overburdening our PD partners, both on the Jersey side and New York City side. Next. Aero view, I mentioned that this is a very hard slide to read with some temporary final flight restrictions in the area going up the Hudson, but essentially picture almost 200 aircraft in the air lined up from here to Virginia. At a very specific time, they will start to fly over the harbor and then up the Hudson, doing flyovers as the military ships are moving and the tall ships are coming in. So it's going to be a pretty epic camera view. Again, probably once in a lifetime. The other thing on the landside security piece, again, hard to really point out here, but tons of spectators that we expect to aggregate and in natural areas where they think they're going to have a good viewpoint of these things. So, as a Coast Guard side, we don't regulate that. We're certainly not directing what that looks like or where we think people will go. We have inclinations. Again, we're sensitive to the fact that this is going to draw a lot of people already on top of who's in town for the FIFA World Cup match the following day, and is only going to, further create a need for coordination and cooperation on the landside piece and what that looks like. We're using airfields all over the region to support this, including airfields that stretch down the East Coast. An interesting fact, what this also presents for the Coast Guard is we're now having to plan for if there's an aerial issue that creates a search and rescue case offshore, we have to position Coast Guard cutters offshore, along, let's say, a couple of, a 600-mile stretch of shoreline. In the event, we need to respond anywhere between here and Virginia. So now we're cross-coordinating amongst districts and commands. We've established, as I mentioned, security zones. This is just a high-level picture of where they will be when there's ships in Anchorage. We've ranked these security zones based on origin country, number of ships in the zone at any one time. Zones will be turned on and off as ships are occupying a given Anchorage area. We've got a very detailed tactical laydown plan of how we're going to attack this, and I will reiterate that it is not Coast Guard alone. We don't have enough resources to do this. Number of PD, FD entities, other local police entities in the area. There's a pretty long list, and I have a snapshot of that at the end. If we go to the next slide, this is the firework area. So now, again, I mentioned layer on top of those security zones which are active, these temporary security and safety zones for the fireworks, both off Jersey City and Macy's. All the Macy's fireworks will again be down in the lower part of the East River, right by the Brooklyn Bridge area. That occurs that evening of the 4th. So a lot of dynamic moving pieces security-wise. A lot here, but essentially just to take away, many of these Navy ships then go to berth after. They don't just stay at Anchorage. Some do stay at Anchorage. So now we're adding security requirements onto private ports for where Navy ships are berthing. And of course, Navy ships are here, so those sailors aren't just going to be trapped on the Navy ships for 2 weeks. They're going to be off, getting on and off the ships. The Navy setting up ferry services between ships at Anchorage to bring them off to designated landside ports. Those sailors will have to be screened before they get back on their ships. So the whole other security dynamic element with sailors coming on and off of ships, both at berth and at anchor. And we're now injecting another, let's say 20,000 people into a metropolitan area for a period of time where we already expect a pretty high level of visitation around that July 4th area. And again, just the landside component with the other spectator areas and what we expect happening with FIFA in general. You cannot read this slide, but this lists every one of the partnering agencies that are helping us with security and safety and search and rescue. What's not noted here is we're setting up a number of spectator, waterside spectator areas. We're basically trying to do Coachella on the water for a 24-hour period. I'm not quite sure, which sounds pretty crazy, but we're expecting anywhere up to 10,000 private watercraft to sit in designated water spectator areas. They'll start to arrive the evening. That'll open up the evening of the 3rd through the 4th, so they could stay out there until the conclusion of the fireworks. Those are also temporarily designated areas, and so we need patrolling within those spectator areas as well for safety and security, all pretty much in the lower harbor, down off of Jersey, Brooklyn, and Staten Island. And this, just a quick note that one of the Navy ships littoral combat ship will be coming here, but then going up to Albany, to the Port of Albany. So these impacts stretch, at least for this one ship, beyond just the Port of New York, New Jersey, to our other state partners up north. The USS Marinette will be coming through here, then up to the Port of Albany after they make their visitation here. So we recognize that there's some bandwidth that we're then pulling from our partners north that are not only supporting us down here, but then having to work their security plans up north as well. And that is all I have. I know it's a lot in a nutshell. Again, I want to thank, on behalf of the captain and the Coast Guard in general, this is a Herculean effort, unprecedented, certainly, as an event, I think, certainly in my lifetime in the Coast Guard, as a planned event. We couldn't do it without each of you in this room. Thank you in advance. We're kind of on the countdown clock here to event execution, but happy to take any questions that anyone may have.
Any questions for the captain?
I can't turn that on.
And I can hear you.
My name is Amanda Left. I'm the Commissioner of the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. I appreciate the great partnership we have with the Coast Guard, and we stand ready, obviously, to provide operational support with several vessels in the water. One thing that I was curious about is if you touch upon just to throw some potential impacts into the room today. We are strategically locating resources, importantly, to also respond to spills, that there is one, so we'll be on the water, but also ensuring that on land we've got our spills resources well situated. I'm sort of curious if you could talk a little bit about what the Coast Guard is planning. My maybe false assumption is that you'll have your resources really concentrated sort of in the New York Harbor area, and while we usually rely on the Coast Guard for spills maybe in other places, how are you thinking about sort of outside of the general, that specific vicinity?
Yeah. So our deliberate planning into this, we've also been very conscious of the fact that we have our regular day-to-day missions that we have to maintain. So while this is focused on all the support we're bringing in to maintain the security operations and bulk that up, we are bringing in resources to either backfill those who are being used to support this event, or we're keeping resources aside to continue the day-to-day support we would otherwise provide in the event of an oil spill or other maritime casualty or event that we need to respond to. So we're talking about ICS for this event. We're essentially establishing a second ICS structure, Coast Guard specific, where we will be handling Coast Guard normal day-to-day Coast Guard incidents with staff to support those. So, my expectation, speaking for the captain, is we'd be able to provide that same level of support, given the size and complexity and location of a spill or an environmental response. We're also bringing in some members of our Atlantic Strike Team. They're our more advanced environmental response, hazmat response asset. They'll be providing support for this event, but they bring a ton of capability and resource with them that we'd be able to leverage if we really had other events we had to deal with. So hopefully that gets to your question, ma'am. Okay.
Any other questions for the captain?
Terry, Captain, how far north of the GW Bridge are the ships planning to go, other than the one that's heading to the Port of Albany?
No further, not north of the GWB. They'll be stopping south of the GWB. The most northern ship will be right south of there. That'll be the reviewing ship. So the VIP or designated official will board that ship. That ship will make its way south. The rest of the ships will be at anchor along the river. So there'll be that one moving military ship with the rest at anchor during that time.
After the thruway, thank you for not going near the Cornwall Bridge.
Any other questions for the captain? Captain, thank you very much. Very much appreciate what the Coast Guard has done here, bringing everybody together, and also, I will say as a civilian who never served, translating what it is that the Navy has been saying in these meetings as well. A lot of it kind of misses me and others, and the Coast Guard has been fantastic in getting everyone on the same.
Navy's okay. It's okay. The Navy's okay.
They're good. They're good. I just don't understand what they say all the time.
We don't either. That's fine. Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Captain. So next up is the man we have to blame for all of this, the CEO of the host committee, Christian Dreyer. He has been a strong partner in working. He has a background in law enforcement, but he has been the face of the host committee for probably a couple years now, I think, but very, very strong partner in addressing concerns, both concerns that come from me, as well as concerns that come from Director Brannon. So it doesn't matter whether it's someone who wants to have fun or someone who wants to keep people from having fun. He's the guy who we've been talking to about how to handle FIFA 2026. So, Christian, I'll turn it over to you.
Sir, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for the field promotion, sir. I'm the Chief Operating Officer. Alex Lazary, my boss, is the Chief Executive Officer, the CEO. So he is my boss. The host committee is, that conduit for FIFA and the various host cities. So for New York and New Jersey, that's where the host committee comes in, and we try to coordinate everything that FIFA would like done as per the host city agreement, which is between the state of New Jersey and the city of New York, and then obviously work with all of us here in the room to carry out that mission. So we'll do a quick little sizzle reel here. So hopefully everybody is getting pumped up for the World Cup. We're about 2 weeks away from going operational. The tournament starts June 11th. We did have the U.S. men's national team reveal at Pier 17 yesterday. That was an awesome event. Good to see the red, white, and blue. Hopefully everybody's rooting for them. Not always the case, per se, in America here. But they have a good chance. They got a great team, so hopefully they go far. Before I do really get into the whole presentation, I do want to thank Deputy Director Waka and Director Vos Gardner for all their help over the past 6 months or so that I've been involved. They've been a great partner, as well as many of your agencies. While I may not have met you, I've probably worked with all of your agencies in some meeting. But just the support with exercises and the engagement has really been great in helping us, right, bring the two sides of the river together. We're so used to. I come from the Jersey side, a retired Jersey trooper. Used to kind of planning in our little silos within each side of the river. So they've been a tremendous partner in helping bridge gaps, make introductions, provide financial support and exercises. So I did want to not forget and say thank you both for all the help. So here, this is the quick layout of what we have. So this is the first time they've done what they call the united bid. So we have more than one country involved. So you have Canada. This is their first time hosting the World Cup. You have us here in the U.S. This is our second time. First time was in '94. We had the semifinals over there at the stadium. And then you have Mexico. This is going to be their third time hosting the World Cup. We've had 22 World Cups total. So this is the first time they've expanded it to 48 teams. So this makes it the biggest sporting event that we've ever had. 104 matches, and with 8 matches here at the stadium. So you talk about how big this event is. This is the viewership when we talk around the world. This is the world sport. It's not the NFL. The past 13 Super Bowls combined, there's going to be more viewership than the past 13 Super Bowls. So it's really a worldwide event. It's extremely large. It's not your normal sporting event very passionate fans coming into the area. So a lot for us to deal with since we have nothing else going on in the city. So here, this is the schedule that we have. We're very fortunate to have some great teams. For those that don't know anything about soccer, I mean, you know, Brazil, France, Norway, Germany, England, I mean, phenomenal teams. So we really have a great teams, some good matches, and we were fortunate enough to be selected for not just the round of 32 and round of 16, but actually the finals. So the finals, you know, is going to be very unique for us with the number of heads of state that are coming. I think we're up to 12 now coming, including POTUS, FLOTUS, Vance. There's even talk of the Pope coming. So just make it even more complicated. But hopefully they can all make it because it's going to be a phenomenal event. So this is just to give you a layout of what it looks like between the 16 host cities and how it lays out on the schedule while they try to work through the group stage and push through that into the playoffs. So we do have four, so they have team base camps where the teams, you know, kind of make their home while they're here during the tournament. And then we have venue-specific training sites for the teams that fly in to play at, say, New York, New Jersey Stadium. So we have four of them on the Jersey side, and so we have a lot of moving parts besides just the stadium itself when you talk about security. So the host committee, these are the four main pillars that we are responsible for helping FIFA facilitate during the tournament. Safety and security, transportation, which is kind of where I run with the operations piece, and then the economic impact and the fan engagement, which is kind of falling into my shop as well. So safety and security, right? Obviously, we're trying to bring so many different agencies from local, city, state, multiple states. I mean, us in Kansas City is another good example of two states working together through this host committee process, right? And you can go to the next one, sir. So, you know, you can read the slides, but, you know, it's really been a collaborative effort. You know, thankfully, they established the White House Task Force, and the White House Task Force has been phenomenal in helping the U.S. host cities push through a lot of concerns. One of the first ones that were brought up was counter-UAS mitigation, and they helped push through the Safer Skies Act, which provided funding for the counter-UAS grant. So it's 2 fiscal years. The first year was $250 million. I think New York got $17 million in that grant, as well as it provided funding for NYPD officers to go down and get trained on the mitigation techniques and technologies that are out there and get deputized through the FBI so that not only can we detect these drones, but we can actually take action to bring them down, whether it's you know, electronic or actually kinetic. And the US DOT provided about $10 million to transit to try and you know, offset some of that. And they also helped push through the FIFA World Cup grant program, which was $625 million total, of which New York and New Jersey received $66 million. So we are still, to this day, trying to push for more funding for the region. I wouldn't say it's a dead issue, but obviously we're not the only people asking for funds. So it is an uphill battle, but we are still trying to push through the funding. So that's really been an extremely useful tool for us, you know, whether it's the federal coordinating officers that we're using for federal resources or, you know, helping a lot of the agencies work through some issues. The White House Task Force, the whole concept and what they've done has really helped, you know, with everything we have to do in this security space. So again, we talk about it takes a village, right? So this is a slide from the SHIELD programs that New York and New Jersey run. The private sector has been an awesome partner in trying to push through a lot of the see something, say something, right? I think like officially we're over 400 agencies that are involved in trying to put all this event on, but really engaging the private sector has really been helpful on both sides, right? For us on the security side, but on their side, right? Trying to make sure that we're mitigating the impacts to those private entities with all the activities that are going on with fan fests and mobility and things at the stadium. So the SEER ratings that we received for everything, we're still trying to push for the SEER 1 ratings for the group stages and the round of 32 and round of 16. That would just provide us more resources from the federal government. Unfortunately, right, we're competing with 10 other cities. So everybody is stretched thin on every level, including the federal government. But again, they've been great partners in working with us, especially with, it's the New York, New Jersey region. So definitely been working great with us. Sure. So along the lines of safety and security, right, the biggest issue that we always have, and I think everybody in this room would agree, right, it's miscommunication. It's lack of communication. I can tell you just within my own team, there's lack of communication, and it's just realizing that, hey, let's take a step back and let's get the information. I'm sure it's just, misunderstanding, miscommunication. So in an effort to try and push through that, we have worked extensively to identify the emergency operations centers that are going to be open for match days versus non-match days. Who's physically going to have people in those EOCs, and that's this is a visual that came out of that workshop. So the host committee, we are trying to stick people in all of these EOCs to try and keep those lines of communication open, making sure that nobody is being left out of anything, and trying to realize that something that may impact New Jersey could also impact New York City or New York State, and trying to just keep those lines of communication open. So we're working with a contractor to staff all these EOCs. A lot of your agencies have been, again, extremely helpful in working with us and allowing us to have a seat in those EOCs and be partners with you in trying to move that forward. So almost all of these will be staffed on match days, and then non-match days when we still have the official fan fests and FIFA has their events going on. We'll be staffing some of the key EOCs on those days. So this is just a screenshot of the New Jersey dashboard that they're using through Emmett, ArcGIS. I believe Lieutenant Colonel Schrodowitz covered that in his presentation. We are also using ArcGIS. Ours just hasn't been fully built out yet, so I had to borrow their slide to use. But again, sharing some of those layers of information, like on the transit hubs and things like that, we're working through that. Obviously, theirs is going to be somewhat law enforcement sensitive. But again, working off of that same platform, having all of our reservists in all those EOCs, working through that same ArcGIS platform is really going to be helpful. Keep everybody on the same page and maintain situational awareness, common operating picture. All right, so the mobility plan, right? This has been in the press an awful lot. There's been a lot of changes that have happened, not just with the mobility plan, but with the fan fests. We had a lot of new administrations come in. So, we just had to adjust and pivot accordingly. So because of the expanded security perimeter that is happening there, we lose a lot of parking. And FIFA has an exclusive use agreement at the stadium. So they own the stadium, basically. And they have taken a lot of the other parking for a lot of their uses, whether it's production or hospitality or whatever they might have. So we really had to transition to a mass transit event similar to the Super Bowl in 2014. So the main push here is with New Jersey Transit, moving 40,000 via their rail and bus. The host committee, that's us, right? Through our funding, we're staffing up a shuttle service for a couple stops in New York City as well as New Jersey to help relieve some stress off of the transit program there. And then obviously we have the rideshare, Uber, Lyft, that type of concept that we're also accounting for there with a nice little hospitality Uber area over at the racetrack. If anybody's ever been over to the stadium property, you have the horse racing track, betting track right next door. So this is kind of a visual of what that transportation concept looks like. So again, trying to, our thought, I don't know if I have it in this slide, but 70% of the fans coming from New York, with 30% coming from New Jersey. So using New Jersey Transit's infrastructure there, we would screen on the New York side at Penn Station for security. On the New Jersey side, once they got into Secaucus, they would be screened for security. And then moving forward, the ideal plan is to use the trains exclusively to get over to the stadium, but they're going to have buses there staged for that overflow so that we can meet that capacity of 40,000 in 3 hours. So this is just a little bit bigger overview that now has the overlay of our shuttle system. This is dated because we have added 2 locations in New York City besides the ones that are shown here, and we do have added some VIP shuttle service as well. What also is not on here is some other temporary road closures for FIFA buses that are coming out of the city to expedite, to make sure we can get the fans to the game on time, but really try to get the fans out of the city and minimize the impact to everyday life, the commuters. Fortunately, 4 of our matches, of those 8, are on the weekends. 4 are during the weekdays. Really, one really impacts, the same time as the commuter hours, and that's where we get into the travel demand messaging of, working with, PATH and helping us out with cross honoring and work from home that day if you can, anything we can do to message to the public to try and minimize the impact for those 4 days. So here, this is the really breakdown. There's a lot going on here, but it basically visualizes everything that I just said, with the 70 coming from New York, the 30 coming from New Jersey, and again, transit, the shuttle service, the ride share. And again, this is dated as well because we've had so many changes in literally the past 2 weeks on all of these, actually. But again, just being great partners. I mean, what is it? 5 miles over to the stadium and having just Amtrak and LIRR and New Jersey Transit, PATH. I mean, everybody's just been great partners working through so many difficult situations. Right now we're adding, I guess, hopefully the Knicks, hopefully they sweep and we don't have to worry about Game 6. But, just, again, working with MSG and so many different entities that all of this is touching, and everybody just understanding how difficult all this is and working through so many different problems has really been just awesome. A tough experience, but awesome to see when it all comes together and everybody works as a team to accomplish that mission. So you talk about the economic impact, right? So it's huge when you just everybody coming in internationally, all the hotels and all the restaurants and everything that is going to help benefit tax-wise, as well as all the jobs that are being created for whether it's private security or all the jobs with FIFA and all the contractors that we're hiring, and I'm sure a lot of through the grant funding that we've been able to procure through the White House Task Force, all the contractors that all the agencies that have received that funding are hiring. So definitely a lot going on the economic side. So fan engagement. So again, this has changed dramatically. So we were initially planning for a large fan fest at Liberty State Park over there on the Jersey side behind the Statue of Liberty, and we just had to pivot. So we have 7 going on. There's various lengths of stay for all of these fan engagements. We have a Sports Illustrated Stadium, the Jersey Fan Hub on the Jersey side. We'll have Rockefeller Center, USTA is 2 of our main ones going, and then we'll have Bronx Terminal Market, Brooklyn Bridge Park, Staten Island, and Central Park going. Yes, sir. So there you go. So again, because a lot of this has come so late, we're still working through a lot of the contracting and logistics on these. So these are our best guesses at right now. So you'll see the dates there for these venues, and where you see ticketed and free. Again, that's just another security feature that we're trying to build in to help account for the resources that might be needed or staged to provide for the capacities that we're having at those venues. But again, really trying to make this as affordable as possible for the fans that aren't going to the matches to really get everybody to enjoy the FIFA World Cup experience. So a pretty unique partnership that came out of all of this, right, is here we are standing up these fan fests. We have the games. We have different modes of transportation that normally aren't there per se. And how do we communicate to all these fans that, you know, I'm from New Jersey, good luck getting me to navigate the subway, but somebody coming from Europe or South America, right? So we partnered with Google and a company called Neuron. And what they've done is create this concierge service. You go to our website, which is at the bottom of all these slides here. And what it does is it gives you FIFA-specific information. So whether it's a place to eat, they're looking for Portuguese food, or they want to get to one of the fan fests, and how do they get there? It's really tailored towards the FIFA engagements and activities. And they've really done a great job building this out. Obviously, everybody knows Google and their capabilities, but linking them in with this company Neuron and how they're able to make this specific to all the events around the FIFA World Cup has really been awesome. And again, it tackles that language issue that we have with everybody coming in from overseas. Google's able to translate that all into their native languages so that they're able to find all that engagement that they're looking for. And this is just another screenshot. Again, this is also still being built out. But, you know, whether it's fan experiences, the different venues, right? Even if they want to go see something else that's not FIFA related, you know, a lot of it is being put in here, and working with chambers of commerce to make sure that a lot of those businesses are being highlighted in this format. And it's really, really great, especially for us trying to, you know, with the unique transit situation and making sure everybody knows where to go and how to get there, and costs. Even like prohibited items lists are in here. So if they want to go to the USTA Fan Festival, they have the prohibited items list in there so that they know what they can or cannot bring before they even get there. So again, the hope was to have some QR codes up in here so you could you know, take a look at some of these things, but again, they're still not completely worked out. But that link tree, I'm not a link tree guy, or social media for that matter, but it has all the links on there for all the different platforms that we're pushing out advertising for, from LinkedIn, Facebook, you know, Instagram, everything you can think of. WhatsApp is the most popular platform overseas in South America and Europe, so that's really why we're advertising the WhatsApp channel. FIFA will have their own app, and FIFA's app is really geared towards the matches themselves. So, you know, stadium, how to get to the stadium, ticket pricing, things like that. It's really just gearing towards the stadium. We were trying to obviously have one platform like they had for UEFA, but just wasn't able to get it together for various reasons, definitely above my pay grade. But that's definitely, if you go to the bottom there, again, our website has all these links, all these drop downs, but these are just included for reference as well. So legacy, right? You think about the 94 World Cup, and as part of the bid process for us to get the 94 World Cup here in the U.S., it was mandated that we start a professional soccer league, and that's how MLS got started, if you didn't know that. So we're not going that crazy this time around, but we are trying to build mini pitches in the 5 boroughs, as well as over on the Jersey side. We have artist renderings of various different soccer balls that are getting placed in a lot of popular areas on both sides of the river. We're trying to purchase some equipment that can be legacied to agencies like NYPD, New Jersey State Police. So again, just trying to leave it better than we found it is really what the host committee is trying to do here for the New York and New Jersey area. So with that, I've went very wave top on a lot of these topics, but definitely here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Christian. Appreciate the overview from FIFA, from the host committee. Any questions for Christian? I'd just like to say thank you very much for the partnership. You've helped bridge the gap and make sure that the event happens with supporting all the security efforts behind the scenes. So thank you very much for that.
Well, I have to say thank you to everybody in the room because, we're here with a lot of responsibility but no authority, right? That's all of you. And being able to work with all the partners has really been an enjoyable experience and can't thank you enough. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Christian. So up next, we have our partners from NWS and Chris Gittro. So, when we think about the threats that are facing us, obviously, we're going to hear in a little bit from the state police about man-made threats, but the one we really can't control or put our thumb on is the weather. And you heard the captain talk a bit about how we're going to have up to 10,000 private boats in the harbor. You think about a storm coming through and just the logistic of trying to handle that type of threat and the planning around that. So we've got a great partnership with NWS and Chris in particular, and he's brought his team. So he's going to give us a quick overview, although this is about patterns. It's not an actual forecast, so don't plan barbecues around what Chris is about to say. But Chris, go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioner. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the DPC. My name is Chris Gittro, meteorologist in charge at the National Weather Service office in Albany. Joining me today is Nelson Vaz. He is the warning coordination meteorologist at the New York City National Weather Service office, as well as Dave Manning. He is the meteorologist in charge at the Sector Operations Center over in Bohemia out on Long Island. So Nelson is our resident expert for the tri-state area, and we thought it would be really good to give everybody of the DPC an overview of some of the weather hazards that we might face here in the tri-state area this summer. So I'm going to turn it over to Nelson. Nelson puts together some really nice slides, and then we'll collectively talk about what our individual offices are doing to help plan and support everybody here today. So Nelson, I'll turn the mic over to you.
All right, thank you, Chris. And I'm going to try and get through this quick, which is not my specialty for those of you who've probably been on some of my briefings. But what we'll go through is what are we concerned about going into the, this summer event season, June, July. And really, we'll talk about, for us, it's a mission of protection of life and property. So what has the highest threat in terms of life and potentially property? And we've been talking about infrastructure, transportation. Those all will play a big part in terms of these summer events. So we'll start with heat. Heat is number one in terms of fatalities, unfortunately. We're talking about 500 fatalities at least in New York City each season. And really the highest impact is to our most vulnerable communities. But, as well, once we get above a certain, temperature thresholds, this becomes a threat for everybody. And especially in terms of when we're talking about all the spectators we're going to have, especially from other countries who are not acclimated to weather in this area, that is certainly a concern. Good thing is for temperature forecasting, high skill in that and high, long lead time so we can prepare. And this is what we've been doing with our partners here. Everybody who's kind of sitting in this room, been preparing for these type of events over the last year. So in terms of heat, average temperatures in June, lower to mid 80s. In July, we're talking about mid to upper 80s. So when does heat become an impact? When it's high heat, so we're exceeding those type of averages. And then there's also the duration, longer duration heat events. So in June, typically about 3 to 5 days where we're talking about 90 degrees or above, and that's kind of that higher heat. And in July, we're talking about 7 to maybe 10 days. So it does double as we're going in July. As we know, that's the peak of the heat season. And then we can see some months, some months we have seen in July where we have half the month is above 90 degrees. So of course, be quite impactful. Now, in terms of 100-degree days, this is when we're really talking about the high heat, high impacts becoming more of a danger to everyone. Typically June, although last year, typically June we don't see a lot of 100-degree days, but last June we did see 3 of them. We were in the upper 90s to around 100 degrees at the end of the month. But more so, July is when we see more of these 100-degree days, and we've seen 3 days of 100-degree heat. And really, when you have that type of heat stress, that's going to be an impact on everyone. The one thing I will note, and we'll go to the next slide. The one thing I will note, especially for our outdoor events, all it takes is really temperatures in the lower 80s, which is lower 80s, full sunshine. When we have alcohol involved as well, which typically at these bigger events we do, where we see that increase in terms of heat-related emergency visits. Now, in terms of climatology, where do our kind of alerts, weather alerts align? It really is with our heat advisories and our extreme heat warnings when we take the combination of both temperature and humidity to give us the heat indices exceeding certain thresholds. And these thresholds have been established through research, especially by the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. Once we reach heat advisory or heat indices that exceed 95 degrees, that's when we see a real spike in terms of emergency room visits and heat mortality. 2 days of nice heat advisory threshold, 2 days of 95, 1 day of 100 and 104. And that really kind of explodes when we get 105-degree heat indices. We don't see that very often. You probably can't see this chart, but about 2% of the days in June and July will you see 105-degree heat indices, really peaking towards July. But 95 plus, we can see 15, 20% of the time. So just to kind of give you a little scale in terms of what what we kind of plan for and what the potential is for these type of heat indices. You can go to the next slide. The other thing is just the duration of the heat. How we kind of consider a long duration heat. 3 days of 90 plus degrees is a heat wave. Generally about a 41% chance of seeing a heat wave in June of 3 days or 90 plus temperatures, but in July that doubles, 87%. So again, combination of the high heat and the prolonged heat, 2 things we're going to be looking at, and especially for non-acclimated, those coming from other areas, or those who have vulnerability, social, especially elderly, very young, those who may have underlying illnesses. We'll go to the next slide. So second, in terms of high impact, and this is not something that we have to kind of really stretch our imagination to know about here. We just had last week a high impact flash flooding event. We're unfortunately have seen in these last several years a handful of these considerable to catastrophic flash flood events, where we're looking at a loss of life, but also, in the most extreme cases, but even, more common is that high impact to transportation, whether it be road, rail, underground infrastructure, as well as also, as well as just kind of residential and commercial infrastructure. And so that is the challenge, here. is being able to provide the lead time for these, and there are different scales of predictability in terms of this. Really, if you look at our June and July flash flood events, or any of our flash flood events, 70% are due to thunderstorm activity. There's a smaller percentage that due to tropical systems, coastal storms, but really a high probability, high number of them is due to thunderstorm activity. The challenge with predicting thunderstorms, we can see the potential in terms of the moisture, the lift, the instability that's coming together to produce these, kind of very strong, very high rain producers with, a high intensity of rainfall, high coverage of rainfall, high duration of rainfall. That's really kind of the different kind of factors for flash flooding. We can see them together. There's predictability in terms of if this is going to be more an isolated event, more of a scattered, is this going to be more widespread, more severe event? We can see that, but then in terms of where exactly in the city or where exactly in the New York City, New Jersey metro, that is the tough thing to really predict. It all depends. Where exactly does that thunderstorm develop? How long does it sit over that area? How intense is it? How does it, what type of coverage is there? How does it interact with other storms? That all goes into the potential for flash flooding, and then it's the infrastructure over where it falls. And we do have a high vulnerability with our infrastructure as well as our high population density. Just some examples: the July 15, 2025. In terms of we had 4 to 6 inches. What can we kind of potentially see with a higher end flash flood event? Is you could see 4 to 6 inches in just 2 to 3 hours of rainfall, over a specific area. You can see some of the kind of the purples and red. Maybe you can't in the lower left. Rainfall rates up to 3 inches per hour. That's going to overwhelm whatever we're talking about in terms of our sewage infrastructure, our roadway infrastructure, subway systems. And so those are the types of events that we are most concerned about. We can predict that potential is there, but exactly where it's going to occur, that's more tough. Tropical systems, that's that's a smaller percentage of the flash flooding cases we have. Those have a higher predictability because they're more distinct storm systems. It's more kind of like with snowfall, where is the heavy snow banding, where is the heavy rainfall going to occur, higher predictability, but sometimes even with those, ahead of the storm, you can get more of these kind of thunderstorm activity, which again, we are concerned about. Next slide. In terms of what is driving these intense rainfall events, it is really thunderstorm activity. You're getting a lot of moisture kind of lifted way up into the atmosphere that has come back down as heavy rain. So June and July, that's when we're going into peak heat season. Peak heat, peak moisture, availability, peak instability. That's how we can develop thunderstorms. So the threat with any thunderstorms is lightning. Of course, lightning is a deadly threat. As well as strong winds is another one, in addition to the rainfall, but strong wind gusts could be 40, could be 60 plus miles per hour. As we go into the summer months, June into July, 25 to 30% probability on any given day of seeing a thunderstorm. Again, the ingredients have to be there. That's where we have good skill in terms of being able to predict the potential for thunderstorms. And is it isolated, scattered, widespread? But again, exactly where in the city is it going to develop? That's the tough thing. We can also tell. You can go to the next slide. The other, so when you kind of put everything together, what are we kind of most concerned about? Two things. High impact scenario would be an organized line of severe thunderstorm. When we talk about severe thunderstorms, you're talking about wind gusts that are greater than 60 miles per hour. It could be large hail. It could be tornadic activity. And so with those type of events, the ingredients that are coming together for them, we can see them pretty well. So I think these type of high impact, what we call a derecho or a squall line, where it's a widespread severe weather, you can get a large area of maybe hurricane force gusts. This is an example from 1998, the derecho. We don't see these very often, once every 10, 15 years, but the problem with these is you get widespread development of 60 to 80 mile per hour winds, hurricane force winds, a lot of trees down, infrastructure damage. In this case, 4 fatalities, 62 injured. The other thing, hundreds of boats being overturned. We talk about 10,000 boats in the New York harbor. potentially with spectators, this type of event. How do we get people, to shelter or, to some type of safety, especially on the water? That's a long lead time on that. The thing with this as well is that because of these are a lot of strong factors coming together, there is a longer lead time. We can predict these in advance. And as well as in terms of predicting the timing of this, we can probably give at least an hour, maybe more, in terms of a heads up that this type of storm is approaching. The other thing that, on the other end that we are probably more concerned about is we can have pop-up thunderstorms, on a summer day, where, in a matter of 10, 15 minutes, you can go from a towering cumulus to a rain shower to thunderstorm, and producing lightning strikes. And with that quick turnaround, how do we message that to potentially 1 million, 2 million people who are watching an event, especially talking about Sail 250. So that's kind of the concerns. The good thing is we are going to be on site for a lot of these events. So being able to provide a play-by-play and even potential, even before a storm develops, of how likely is this to develop. Next slide. And just in terms of tornadoes, not a big deal. Last two slides. In terms of tornadoes, sorry about that. Not a big deal. The only tornado we have in June and July, it's more of a August, September type of event once water temperatures get a little bit warmer. July 25th, 2010. So not a big deal, but 1 in 10,000 storms develop a tornado. And really, high impact, but it's going to be very narrow areas and a low probability. And last slide, in terms of tropical systems, we don't really see a lot of tropical systems during the June and July. Water temperatures are still colder. But, what is the main threat with that? It is going to be flash flooding with that. Wind's not necessarily a big concern. Kind of a worst case scenario would be a tropical storm Agnes. June 22nd, 1972, 30 to 50 mile per hour winds, gusts to 65. That was more widespread. You had some wind impacts, but 4 to 6 inches of rain that fell in a short period of time from the Bronx to lower Hudson Valley. Considerable to some really catastrophic type of flooding. So with that, let me come back to Chris and
Let's see. Good afternoon, everyone. Just to talk a little bit about the National Weather Service posture that we're looking at for FIFA and Sail 250 and all of the other events. We have to participate in all of the events up and down the East Coast simultaneously, so it's kind of a heavy lift for us. We're taking the message of all hands on deck that the governor has echoed very seriously, and that we're grateful for the partnership that we have already in advance, that we've been part of the planning process for all of these events with OEM, with NYCM, with New Jersey State Police, and all of the other federal partners that we're also supporting during all of these events. This is kind of a heavy lift for us. We're a very small agency, but we're supporting multiple SEER 1 and SEER 2 events all at the same time. So in our region, we're not only here in the tri-state, but also Boston, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Norfolk, Atlanta now, as well as all the activity in and around the National Capital Region for the 250th. The planning began a year ago. We've got dozens of our meteorologists from the agency-wide, even from Alaska, that are coming to support all of our events by backfilling in our local weather forecast offices, not only in Albany, but here in New York, Mount Holly, New Jersey, and the Baltimore, Washington forecast office, to be able to get our local expertise out into the emergency operations centers with all of our decision makers to be able to make those smart decisions to keep everybody safe. We can't change the weather, we can't protect the infrastructure, but we can do our best to provide you with the absolute best information that you have to make better and more informed decisions. For our sector here for the East Coast, we will be doubling up our staffing, supporting FEMA's regions 1, 2, and 3 throughout the event, as well as coordinating all the activities with our weather forecast offices as they support all the local partners and the states. We'll be at all our local offices. We'll be supporting state EOCs as well as local EOCs, and we'll be the coordinating entity within all of our offices and also vertically in our agency, so that we can make sure that our federal partners are well informed. So I'm going to turn it over to Chris Gittro, who's going to talk about our state level support for the state of New York for this one. So Chris.
Thanks, Dave. So as many of you know, we're very fortunate to be directly across the street from the State Operations Center. So our posture at Albany, we're planning on sending a meteorologist over at least one time per day from June 10th through July 19th. Our flexibility will begin to increase on match days where we'll have somebody positioned for 12-hour shifts. And then for the very critical time of July 2nd through July 8th, we'll have 24-hour coverage where we'll be having forecasters working 12-hour shifts to maintain coverage and situational awareness for the state of New York. Then, last slide here, we'll go ahead and turn it over to Nelson to talk about what New York City is going to be doing.
Hi, thanks, Chris. So we're going to be, we are going to be providing quite a bit of on-site support. I think that's the main thing. For those who are familiar with our briefings, we're the local tri-state, office. So it's going to be an all-hazard focus, whether it's going to be land hazards, aviation, marine, hazmat is going to be a big one. We have the quick turnaround in terms of being able to give dispersion runs if that comes to the need, and we even have contact with our space weather partners as well in terms of maybe telecommunications, something like that if there's a space weather incident. We are going to be providing twice daily event-specific email briefings. We have a weather support on demand website, accompanying PowerPoints as well, especially targeted in on the aviation and marine. We've been in planning meetings, exercises for the last year with this, so we are fine-tuning it to some of the partner needs from the Coast Guard to NYCM to New Jersey State Police. And just in terms of the on-site support that we're going to be doing, we're going to have somebody at the EVCC, the External Venue Coordination Center for the FIFA World Cup, all 8 matches with New Jersey State Police. New Jersey Fan Hub, we're going to be there for the 7 highest spectator days, which are going to be some of the Fan Fest plus concerts. We'll be there with Hudson County and stakeholders. Sailforth 250, we're going to be here at Javits July 3rd through 6th. Been working with the Coast Guard New York sector. So we'll be providing on-site support. So, we'll be able to kind of do that play-by-play in terms of potential for thunderstorms, things like that. July 4th, Macy's Fireworks. We're going to be with NYCM there as well. Jones Beach Air Show and fireworks are going to be going on. We're going to be with New York State Parks and New York State Police. All of this is on-site support. And July 19th, we're going to be in a lot of different areas from a Port Authority, NYCM, and FIFA, New Jersey State Police. So we're going to be tremendously, spread out, but we fortunately have the resources now in terms of being able to staff up, as you've seen with our Dave and Chris talking about the national to the regional to the state approach. We are being supported with 9 additional forecasters to help backfill so that we can be on site and provide these services. And just a couple last things is we're going to have language translation services for almost all of our forecast products in 8 different languages, the key languages for the World Cup. And like I just mentioned, I know hazmat is a big concern, so we are able to provide a really quick turnaround in terms of air dispersion, chemical dispersion forecasts before it gets sent up to the IMAC. So that's it. You can see some of the examples of the type of briefing products we have, but that's it from here.
Thanks, Nelson. I know we're probably getting short on time, but we're happy to entertain any questions should anybody have any. But Commissioner, that concludes our presentation.
Thank you, Chris. Any questions for NWS? So, Chris, I would like to say thank you. You led with heat, which often gets overlooked, and our Department of Labor, Department of Health, and other partners do great work in informing and giving notice to New Yorkers about heat, because heat is the deadliest of all weather conditions. But we rely upon you, and what the information you give us allows the subject matter experts here to put out the appropriate notice. So just want to say thank you very much for all the partnership.
Pleasure. Thank you, everyone.
So we're in the home stretch. At this point, I'd like to ask for entertain a motion to conduct an executive session under Public Officers Law, Section 105. This would be for the purpose of having the commission hear receive a threat brief from State Police and the Division's Office of Counterterrorism, which information, if disclosed, may imperil public safety. So at this point, is there a motion?
So moved.
All right, so I will take that. We'll have a vote. We need a vote of a quorum. So I will ask all those in favor, if you could raise your hand. Anyone opposed? All right, seeing no opposition, we have more than 17 affirmative votes. So at this point, I would move to close the meeting to executive session. The way we'll do this, just so it's easy, if your staff is going to attend, state staff or a commission staff, if you could just have them come over and stand by you so we know who is here as part of the commission. And at this point, we would ask those who are not a part of the commission if they could step out. All right, and we'll take about 3-4 minutes. Thank you, everybody.